Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 74 of the Knuckle Sammich podcast, the official MMA podcast of Sauce on the Side. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Thomas R. Shackelford.
Good morning, everyone.
Today, Dippers, we are going to talk about the wildness of last week, where two of the last three fights did not actually have a winner, and we will talk about and break down and give you picks for Jack Hermanson and Jared Cannonier. So, wait and see. Producer, you know what to do. Welcome to the Knuckle Sammich podcast with Thomas R. Shackelford, a Sauce on the Side production. All right, Mr. Shackelford, so let's go ahead and start off. We'll kind of work in reverse order here with Brandon Moreno and Askar Askarov. Fight ended up being a draw. I thought that the way that the judges scored that fight, going into the decision, I thought there was really no way that there was going to be a draw. What were your thoughts on the decision for the fight to be a draw and keep Askarov's undefeated streak going?
Well, I'm surprised that it was Mexico. How did Moreno not just get that, no matter what it was?
I agree.
Both dudes are tough fighting. Moreno is a guy that he got cut from the UFC at one point, and he can fight with anyone. Who knows? I don't think we picked that one because I was leery of the Askarov because of his record. I think he's from Dagestan. That just kind of started the wild events of that fight. Just from there was a landslide downward for the rest of it. It was like you knew. Retrospect is 2020. What did they say? What is the
hindsight's 2020?
Hindsight's 2020. Hindsight's 2020. But if you would have looked at that, you probably would have shut your TV off right then and be like, "All right, I can go to bed now."
See, we actually didn't pick that fight. That's why I wanted to talk about it, because I feel like the whole entire night just basically got turned on its head whenever they gave this a draw. Because going into that going into the decision, I thought, man, I think Moreno actually picked this one up. I thought it was pretty clear that he had won 2 of the 3 rounds. Thought he had won, you could make an argument for all 3, especially with a judge giving him a 10-8, even in the 3rd round. I just thought it was completely weird.
Yeah, that's almost unheard of, to get a 10-8 one round and still lose the fight. I mean, basically, they would have had to give that other dude 30-27 across the board. Somebody had.
Yeah, it was very, very bizarre, I thought. Next fight, Carla Esparza ends up winning a decision against Alexa Grasso. I don't know if I agreed with this decision, but what did you think on this fight?
No, that one I for sure thought Grasso won. I mean, even Esparza's best round was round 1, and if she did get 2 takedowns, 2 or 3 takedowns, but I think Grasso also got 1 or 2. She wasn't on her back long. She was pretty much right up within 30 seconds, and she was doing some really good work on the feet. I thought it was a 30-27 and probably a 10-8 in the 3rd round, because Esparza was just barely standing in the 3rd round. That decision, the first one, close fight there, but this one, I just thought Grasso, she went away with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Brandon Moreno fight, there was a route that you could get to the draw. There is a definite route whenever you watch the fight. But with this one, I thought it was just completely bizarre, and especially if you just take a still shot from whenever the fight was over, whenever they raised her hand, she was just completely shocked, and I'm talking about Esparza here. She was completely shocked that she had won. Her face had been just completely pummeled, and Grasso looked like she hadn't even been in a fight.
No, she's smiling. She's still looking pretty. She just standing there smiling like she's a. She looks so young. She looks like she's like a 16-year-old kid in there fighting. Again, it was like that one fight kind of caused a little landslide effect there. they took one from the Mexicans. They had to give another one back to the Mexican fighter. So, well, no, actually, they have Esparza listed as American and Grasso as the Spanish. So they were going in deep. They're like, we're ripping off all Mexicans tonight. Nobody from this country gets a win tonight.
Yeah. That was probably the worst decision of the night. I definitely have to say.
Grasso's looked a lot. She was highly touted. And then Tatiana Suarez just took her down, choked her out. I mean, it was like a minute and a half type thing. Since then, she's looked as good as what everybody thought she was going to look like. So it's one of those. It's going to be one of those ones where when you look on her record, it'll be a loss. But I don't think they step her down in competition. I don't think they're going to hold this one against her.
No, you can't move the needle down on her after this fight. I absolutely agree there. And then the wildest situation, I think, Yair Rodriguez, Jeremy Stephens ends up being a no contest. Just a handful of seconds into the fight, Yair Rodriguez kind of put his hand out, ended up getting Jeremy Stephens in the eye. Herb Dean did an awesome job trying to stall this out as long as possible.
Was like the most beautiful ref job I've ever seen.
Yes, and I think it's something to be said, maybe that Herb Dean is the biggest winner of the night because, there's been a lot of backlash on him, either stopping fights too late, stopping fights too early, and a lot of people were kind of calling for Herb Dean's head, and then, he goes out there and does what a lot of people wouldn't do, and that's basically call off the dogs for 5 full minutes, give Jeremy Stephens the possibility to return, knowing what these guys have put into it, kind of stall it out. Awesome job by Herb Dean. Ultimately, Jeremy Stephens wasn't able to open his eye. A lot of people were, complaining about Jeremy Stephens. They were throwing stuff into the octagon.
That's crazy. I think I've only seen that maybe 2 times ever. That one was the Khabib fiasco, Khabib McGregor fiasco, but I don't recall seeing it. Even with the Khabib McGregor one, they were in the United States, so
yes.
Police force there that was in Mexico, man. Like when they started throwing stuff, I legitimately was thinking this could go south really, really, really quick.
Brian Ortega said that he was even getting hit with stuff, and he started throwing stuff back.
Well, he's used to it. He's got that Mexican culture blood in him. He knows if they're throwing beers at you, you just turn around and throw them right back.
Yeah,
they had a good cam set up. From the commentator's booth, it was Bisping, and the guy's name slips me. He's on a ton of cards. I should know his name, but that dude Bisping kind of stands up and faces the crowd, and that guy shows him. He goes, well, and they're like still talking the whole time, and he's like, well, I'm gonna just go under the desk here, and it shows him dipping under the desk, and Bisping's like, nah, I think his name's Brian. He's like, nah, Brian. I never crawl under and hide from things. I faced him. And he turns around, he's like, the crowd's throwing stuff on him. He just stands there like, he basically just squared up with the entire Mexico City crowd. Like, nah, throw your worst at me, no problem.
It was like a 5th grade earthquake drill. Yeah. Just crawl under the desk and hide.
But they don't do that in England probably, so they didn't even, that was so foreign to him. Like, oh, what are you crawling under and hide for? We got 20,000 people to fist fight.
Yeah. A lot of people question it, but I don't think that you can question Jeremy Stephens' toughness here.
No, this dude has been in the UFC since I want to say he was 20. I remember his first fight. He came out and fought Dean Thomas, which at the time Dean Thomas was on a run. I believe he came back through the Ultimate Fighter. He didn't win. That was at 170, but he went back down to 55, and he was on a run. And it didn't end until he ended up losing a fight to Kenny Florian, but he had a torn ACL when he fought. And I believe that was his last fight. I think injuries just accumulated. But he was on a run where he was just tearing everybody up, and Stephens took the fight on a week's notice. Nobody knew who Stephens was. He was out of the Militich camp. A 19, 20-year-old kid doesn't jump in and fight, but basically one of the top 5 ranked guys in the world on a week's notice. He's not a pussy.
Yeah.
And he's never, ever been claimed to be that. He came out kind of with a statement and said that he's had his orbital bone fractured before. He's had a retinal scratch or tear. And he said nothing was like that. He said basically it was like a swipe, and it hit him just right, but his eyelid like had a spasm. He couldn't. Basically, what it was, he couldn't open his eyelids. They could, and the doctor, they showed it like was forcibly trying to open it, and he couldn't get it open. Some fighters you could be like, well, you know, just open your eye. But
Todd Duffy.
well, I'm not naming names. There's been other guys though, not just him, but. Stevens is one of those dudes that you could never be like, oh, he's holding his eyeball open or closed. Like, there's no way I believe that. No way at all.
No, and especially whenever they were showing like the close up, like his whole entire face looked relaxed, and his eye was still, and his eye was still like just closed, and he wasn't forcing it shut.
That's one thing that Herb did great. Herb told him that. He's like, look, he got swiped. His eye is closed, but when it relaxes, it will open. The problem was it just wasn't going to relax in that 5 minutes.
Yeah, such a bummer. They've actually rescheduled that fight to be in a few weeks. So if you're questioning whether or not Jeremy Stevens was scared of Yair Rodriguez, you get your answer pretty fast.
You know, I like Yair, but he kind of handled it crappy. Like, Bisping walks in the cage, puts his arm around him, and like he kind of almost goes after Bisping. Then he hops up on the cage, and he's like, while they're throwing stuff in the cage, he's like hyping them up. Then in the post-fight kind of presser thing, he's saying, you know, he's like, well, Jeremy Stevens is going to have to live with this. I got eye poked in the Frankie Edgar fight, and I just kept fighting. I couldn't see either. Well, what happened in that fight? He got bludgeoned. It almost retired him. He wouldn't take a fight for like a year. So if you can't see, you can't see. If you can't open your eye. And then I guess they had a little scuffle where he kind of like came up and tried to give Stevens a hug, but then when he was giving him a hug, a bro hug thing, he kind of talked shit to him, and Stevens, I don't know, I guess he threw out a couple gay slurs and pushed him, and he's like, I'm not from the dojo, man, I'll whoop your ass. Like, that's what he said. So I'm gonna rewatch the Zabit and Stevens fight, because the more that I kind of think about it, the less comfortable I was with the Yair pick. I think I shortchanged Stevens a little bit because he did really well against Zabit, and Zabit I think is a more well-rounded, better version of Yair. So I'm gonna relook that over. We may end up having a flopped pick there.
Yeah, I'm excited for that fight the second time around. You know, because I think there's going to be a lot of emotions in that fight.
Yeah. Stevens is gonna be. I can't wait for it. It almost made the fight more likable to me, and it was already a fun-ass fight.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. So let's go ahead and give our picks for this weekend. First up, main event, we have Jack Hermanson coming in as a minus 250 favorite over Jared Cannonier, who is a plus 195 underdog. Mr. Shackelford, what's the pick?
It's got to be Hermanson. I mean, Cannonier's he's done really well his last few fights. I think he used to fight at heavyweight, but he came back in. So I think he started his career at heavyweight, made it down to light heavyweight.
I think he beat Big Pretty, didn't he, at heavyweight?
Let me see if I can look real quick. No, but I mean, he fought Sean Jordan. You remember him? Sean Jordan was like 265 pounds. He was like a fullback for LSU.
Yes, I remember him.
He could do like backflips at like 300 pounds. Anyways, Cannonier's a big, strong guy. His last win was against Anderson Silva. You remember he kicked Anderson in the leg.
And he basically just crumbled.
30 seconds later, Anderson crumpled because his leg went down. Big dude, strong dude. Very good striker, but I think Hermanson all around is just going to be on him like a wet blanket.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually think that's going to be a pretty fun fight to watch, though.
I think so, too. When I was looking through this card, there's probably 8 fighters that I really like to watch.
Yes, this is absolutely a loaded card. I agree there. Next up, we have Gunnar Nelson, who opens as a plus 110 dog to Gilbert Burns, who is a minus 140 favorite. Mr. Shackelford, what's the pick?
Man, I think Burns is the pick here. Gunnar has not... Man, he just hasn't really shown what he is lately. Like, with Leon Edwards, I think he fought one style and he just went in there and he couldn't get takedowns, and Leon beat him up. Even in the Oliveira fight, he had some very close moments there. He was a guy that we really thought he was gonna he was going to be championship material. That loss to Damian Maia, he's almost split losses since then. Of course, there's another one, Ponzinibbio strike. Pons poked him in the eye within 10 seconds, and he couldn't see, and he got bludgeoned. So I hate to pick against Gunnar. I love Gunnar. I love his style. I'm more, I do jiu-jitsu, so I love those jiu-jitsu-based guys. But unfortunately, Gilbert Burns right now he's on the top of his game on the jiu-jitsu circuit and his MMA career. He's on a 3-fight win streak. He's fought 3 tough guys. His last loss, and probably in the last 2 years, has been to Dan Hooker. So I think Burns has a little more aggressive and definitely better striking, but I think his grappling game is a little more wrestling heavy. And he's not going to give up a takedown to Gunnar. I think he gets a win here.
I think that if you are a smart bettor on this, I think you bet it right before the fight. Because I think Gunnar Nelson is going to have more people throwing money at him.
He's definitely got the bigger name. So
yes.
I think you're right. The closer he gets, that Gunnar name's probably is going to get him a little more love there.
I absolutely agree. Next up, we have Ion Cutelaba, who opens as a plus 105 dog, to Khalil Roundtree, who is a minus 135 favorite. This should be a very interesting fight.
That one surprises me.
Yeah, I was very surprised by the odds. I think Roundtree looked awesome in his last fight, if I remember correctly.
Brutalized Eric Anders. You remember Roundtree's the one, and this may be why he's getting all the love. He was on Rogan's podcast, and because Rogan was so impressed with how his Muay Thai looked, he just up and moved to Thailand. Like he lost to Johnny Walker, and then he just moved to Thailand. He looks like he's like a 45-year-old sitcom character, but he's really he's a young guy, like 25. He just up and moved to Thailand and just really dove in deep to the Thai scene there. And Rogan was so impressed, he kind of had him on the show. I'm betting you that's why he's the favorite, just because he's way more known. Now, Cutelaba's the dude, I had him picked, remember, to beat Glover last time.
Yes.
And he had some really, really, really close calls where he almost stopped Glover several times in there, but just the veteran that Glover is came through and ended up wearing him out.
Now, he paints himself green, right?
Yeah, he usually does. He didn't on the last one for some reason. That's how I hyped him up last time. I was like, it's the dude that's green, but then he didn't do it. I would say Roundtree. I thought Roundtree was going to be the dog. I think Roundtree has much, much better striking, but Cutelaba, his wrestling will be better than Roundtree's. So this is a tough one to call. I would say my pick would be Roundtree, but I would not put a bunch of money on it. If you're looking for your dog pick, Cutelaba is the way to go. If this is a card that you're going to try and parlay some guys with a dog, Cutelaba would be your best dog to go with.
Yeah, I think that has potential to honestly be fight of the night. Next up, we have Nicholas Dalby, who opens as a plus 125 dog, to Alex Oliveira, who is a minus 155 favorite. Mr. Shackelford, what's the pick?
I lied to you. I'm picking Dalby. I watched this guy, so he's the dude that has a draw with Darren Till. So when Darren Till was blown up on the scene, everybody didn't know who he was. Dalby comes in, gets a draw with him, and then he drops a couple, ends up out of the thing. He fought one of the most insane fights against Ross Houston in Cage Warriors just a couple months ago. That's the one they had to stop it due to blood. They were both bleeding so bad, the entire canvas was covered. Neither way, it was so slippery they had to stop the fight from blood. I am excited to see him back in the UFC. This is going to be a tough fight.
Isn't that the one where they were both hugging each other, both on the side of the cage, and it was just wild?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
He pretty much controlled the fight after I want to say the first round. He got hit with a big knee or an elbow, and he got split open. After that, he was controlling the fight, but he was bleeding so bad they had to stop it. And it was both guys bleeding. It wasn't his cut they had to stop it due to cut. They had to stop it because the mat was so slippery. Because every time one of them stood, they just slipped and fell back down. This may be going out on a limb here because Oliveira is still a badass still a wild man to fight, but I almost think that wild man is going to get him in trouble with Dalby. Dalby's more like a locomotive. Like, he's going to go, he's going to keep going the same pace the whole time. So I lied. That would be my dog pick for the week.
You knew that his nickname was Locomotivio, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Locomotivo?
No way.
I swear.
No.
Yes, it is.
Dippers, I did not do that.
Yes, you did.
I've seen several of this guy's fights. I'm super impressed with him. I did not know that. The locomotive is just how I would describe him.
Well, everybody else does too. Everybody else does too. So obviously we have some other guys on the card, OSP. There's actually a lot of decent-sized names on this card. Should be a very good card. What's a fight that you see that might not be, one of the fights that we'd broken down, but something that you're really looking forward to this weekend?
This Macy, I've said it a few times, this Macy Chizan, she's 5-0. I think she's had two TKOs. I can't remember, 3. So 1 submission and 2 TKOs in the UFC. She fights at that 145-pound division. I believe she's one to keep an eye on. I don't know why they have her so low. She's actually fighting Lena Landsberg, who's another up and coming but tough. So this will be a good test for her. But this tries on. I don't know that you'll see a more aggressive female fighter than her. Of course, you got Lando Venata versus that Mark Diakiese guy that should be tough. And OSP's on this card too. I just don't know the guy he's fighting. And the guy he's fighting is like 9-2 or 10-2 or something. Or no, he's 14-2. So didn't want to make a pick there, but there's a ton of tough dudes on this card.
Yeah, I am very excited for this card. I think it's actually going to be one that flies under the radar, that ends up giving us one of the best night of fights that we've had in a while. So any news and notes around the UFC, around mixed martial arts that you are looking at, or things to look forward to over the next few weeks?
Well, there's Bellator's running a card on Friday, but their big one on Saturday. They got Pitbull versus Juan Archuleta, Musashi versus Machida.
Oh, that's a good one.
Machida, Darian Caldwell, which we know from wrestling, is fighting Henry Corrales. That should be tough. AJ Agazam's fighting again, a jiu-jitsu guy. But really the big thing this weekend, which is I'm going to actually get out and about and go see, is the ADCCs this weekend. So ADCCs, the Olympics of grappling. Gordon Ryan, former guest Gary Tonin, got a late invitation just because some stuff dropped out, so he was able to squeeze in there. Another one of our guests, John Thor Blank, got the invitation to go in. Of course, you got the heavy hitters. You got the Gordon Ryan, the Cyborgs, the finals. So the way ADCC runs is like they'll do regular divisions, and then they'll do an ultimate division where just the winners and some other guys can pop in. Well, the winner of that every year gets like an invitation back to do a super fight, where Andre Galvao, I think this is his 5th super fight. So if he won whatever it was 10 years ago, because it's every 2 years, so he won like 4 ADCCs ago, and he hasn't lost a super fight yet. So he's kind of the king of ADCC. Well, he's fighting grappling a guy named Felipe Pena. Who they're 2-2 against each other. Galvao's came out and said that this will be his last competitive match ever, like he's retiring. So he's 2-2 against this guy. This will be the
rubber match.
The rubber match, the best out of 5, and it's in the biggest stage ever in the ADC super fight. So that'll be pretty cool. I don't have predictions. Those tournaments can held this week. Really 3. The other guy, I didn't know his name so much, but Keenan Cornelius dropped out due to an eye infection. He got some like super aggressive, basically pink eye from training. It's a bacteria that's super aggressive. And then Dylan Danis dropped out yesterday.
What did he drop out for?
By the time bedtime came and this show came, I still hadn't seen why exactly. But so Danis and Cornelius is out, and those were 2 big names. Last year, 2 years ago, Danis gave Gordon Ryan, really his best match except throughout the whole tournament. It was in the opening round. So I don't have predictions.
He's getting ready for that Jake Paul fight. Or is it Logan Paul?
Hey, what's going on with that? Was he sleeping with Jake Paul's wife or something?
No. So what happened was he posted this picture, like saying some pretty bad stuff with his girlfriend.
He's in some risque photos with it. He's posting some photos that I'm just saying. If I was in photos with a girl that looked like that, there probably would have been some some happy time after. Like,
the one picture she actually replied to, and she told him to leave her out of it, and basically said that he had stood behind a line of like 5 people waiting to take his picture with her.
Way.
Yes, she's like, you stood in line behind 5 other fans waiting to get a picture with me. I give you a photo, and this is what you do with it.
He keeps dropping. He's like, your wife teabagged me and stuff like that. And I was like, oh damn! Like, you actually banged this dude's wife?
Nope.
I thought there was more than one picture. Maybe the other pictures was his last girlfriend, because I thought there was some ones of him in like a bathtub with her and like them naked and those.
I don't think those. No, that is his. I thought that was Dylan Danis' girlfriend.
Okay, I must have got him confused.
Yeah, no, you got him confused.
All those good-looking chicks with the painted-on eyebrows and fake boobs and stuff, like
they all run together.
They all run together.
Yeah,
man. That makes me a hot chick racist, probably, but unfortunately, that's just how it is.
No, I think he stood in line for like 10 minutes waiting to get that picture. He's like, man, is it Jake Paul or Logan Paul?
You and Paige Van Zandt be like, send it to her, man, and be like, your wife tasted my balls. No, that'd be terrible.
It'd be terrible.
I think it's Jake Paul that he's making fun of, but but Logan Paul's the one that fights. Which people, it's a joke. He's not a great fighter. It's a celebrity bullshit fight. But people don't understand, that fight was probably the most viewed fight in the history
of fighting
of the world. Just because of all the streams.
And they were all like 10 and under.
It was crazy. I watched part of it on Twitch. Like, I just pulled up a random kid's Twitch and was watching part of it. And that one random kid's Twitch I was watching had something like 25,000 viewers. So how many Twitch streams were going of them watching that, not including the actual pay-per-view? Somebody rounded up. It was way more than the main Mac. It was way more than anybody's ever calculated. But they just don't have. That the Twitch streams and stuff just don't. You can't, like, you would have to yourself find 10,000 Twitch streams to see how many people were watching them.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to fight on DAZN on this one. It's not going to have headgear. It's going to be like a full.
And it's going to be Danis?
Boxing match. No, it's going to be KSI.
Oh, okay.
Paul's fighting again. The rematch, because the money's in the rematch.
Yes.
You know?
That is crazy.
I don't hate on anybody who can make money out of fist fighting. Like, you've got to be a dumbass kind of to get in there. This kid's a millionaire. I don't know why he's pretending like he's a fighter. I guess he was a pretty good wrestler back in the day. Not the greatest boxer, but he's going to make a shitload of money doing this. So.
Yeah.
And Danis knows that. You notice Danis only goes after people that he knows he's going to make a ton of money on.
Yeah. No, I agree. And
he's not as dumb as people think he is.
Well, I don't know about that.
He's what would be the what do you say? He's batting out of his league?
Yes.
You got a good...
He's out-kicking his coverage on this one.
Out-kicking his coverage. He is out-kicking his smarts coverage in the fight game.
No, I absolutely agree. So, any other news and notes before we wrap this show up?
That's it. You got like 10 fight cards, including grappling, to watch from this weekend.
Yes.
Jump on one and just go in deep.
And enjoy the ride. And on that note, for Drake, for Mr. Shackelford, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.